Hello there, dear hearts, and welcome to another Lola Gets episode, and where we talk about faith, love, and GLP-1s. So today we are going to focus more on the faith and love piece. So we're doing another marriage check-in challenge here, and last week Landon and I had a date day, and we had a fabulous time going out to one of our favorite Mexican restaurants. We went to go see The Accountant 2, and then we ended the day with doing an episode and just doing a question check-in challenge kind of thing. So we had a great time. We had a great time. We had fun spending time with each other. We hadn't had a date day in quite a while, so it was long overdue. So today, though, I am wanting to talk to all of my married friends out there, specifically my married lady friends. And what we're going to talk about today is actually marriage fatigue and what that looks like. And some of people may be like, what is marriage fatigue, right? Like, is that a thing? And it absolutely is, in my opinion. I think it absolutely is a thing. And we're going to talk about it today. So, one thing I was going to say, and that I was thinking about as I was talking to Landon last week too, is, and just to back up, my husband and I will be celebrating almost 12 years of marriage in June. So it'll be 12 years in June. And we've been doing a lot of reflecting, just thinking about our struggles. We're thinking about our breakthroughs, things that we've overcome. Um, and like literally just today, we were talking about and reminiscing about when we first met and what that was like and how we felt. So it's just been really good, just checking in and um, really having good conversation about where we've come from and where we are today. So, um, and sometimes in the court during the course of our conversation while we were thinking about it, and I know it's kind of a weird thing to think about while we were having such a good conversation, but I literally was like, sometimes I get tired. Sometimes I get tired of wifing. And you can kind of get burnt out or feel burnt out with your relationship and all of that. But I think the thing to note is like it doesn't mean that don't love my husband. It doesn't mean that our marriage is in trouble or anything like that. I think just with anything, when you do too much of it and you don't reset or you don't check in, you can get burnt out. You can get burnt out at work. You can get burnt out doing ministry. You can get burnt out doing a number of things if you don't check in with yourself or with your spouse in this situation, right? So let's talk about it real quick. So marriage fatigue, what does it look like? What is it? And like I said, I wanted to mention too, like I use Chat GPT and I call it Chad. So my Chat GPT is Chad. And Chad and I were talking and I was asking Chad about, describe marriage fatigue to me, right? So some of this I look up and some of this it's obviously from my own experience as well, but sometimes, you got to check in with Chad too. So, and just see what's out there, right? But definitely know that it's not always, any AI is not always correct. So you have to definitely do your own research and do your background checks, right? And make sure some of this stuff is accurate. But I did look it up, right? So marriage fatigue is feeling sometimes emotionally drained when in your relationship. And not so much about like that you're falling out of love with your spouse. What I'm talking about specifically is not about like you're in a bad spot with your spouse or that you're falling out of love with them. You're just literally feeling burnt out with all the emotions that come with being in a relationship, with all the strain, with all the pulling, in all kinds of different directions, right? Like you can be carrying a lot of emotional weight that you may be because if you haven't checked in, that could be a part of it. You could be, sometimes it feels like maybe you're repeating some of the same arguments, like you haven't maybe learned from the last time you had that argument, and then it kind of bleeds into another argument and it feels like you're being repetitive. So, and it also can be just life itself. It can be like when you're juggling, things with work or things with your children or things with your family, lots of different emotional strains from lots of different directions can cause you to be burnt out or feel drained. So that's what we're talking about. We're talking about, things that can trigger fatigue, like grief or stress or parenting, and you just kind of feel like sometimes your relationship is like on autopilot, right? So, like I mentioned before, we'll be celebrating 12 years of marriage in June, so next month, and we've definitely had seasons where we felt kind of on autopilot. We've gone through lots of different milestones, that 5 years of marriage, 7 years, 10, and we're, after 12, we're getting closer to 15 and 20, so on. So, God willing, Lord say the same. So we've had several trials. We've had, things that we've triumphed over, and we've had things that we've had to go through, and really that taxed our marriage or tested us both in a lot of different ways. It caused us to grow. So because we've had those seasons, it doesn't mean that we're broken, and it doesn't mean that that our marriage is on the rocks, right? It just means that we're human, and we are, you choose to spend your life with someone when you choose to get married, and it is hard. Sometimes it is hard living and existing with another person, right? And choosing to put their needs sometimes before yours, and you're expecting them to sometimes put your needs before theirs, and it's a lot. It can be a struggle sometimes. So I think the one thing is, you can still be you can be faithful, you can be committed, but you can also be tired. And that's human, right? It's to be tired in your marriage. So, what we're going to talk about, and what this episode is about for women in particular, sometimes we don't always, sometimes being a mom, and I know we're going to do the man version. Don't worry, folks. But for right now, it's like Mother's Day just occurred, and my husband asked me, "What do you want for Mother's Day?" And I literally was like, "I just want to be left alone." I just want to be left alone in a quiet room with no one asking me for anything. Like, I mean, I got so excited about just not doing anything and being left alone. And sometimes, and it's not always like that, right? Like, I love my family, I love my kids, I love my husband. But I definitely was like, work has just been a lot. I just suffered a loss with my grandmother passing. And I just wanted to be left alone. I just wanted to be left alone with my thoughts. I wanted to talk to God, pray, cry, do all of those things. And that's what I told him I wanted. So, and today I kind of, actually, today is the day after Mother's Day. So I really didn't get a chance to do that on Mother's Day, but I definitely took some time off from work, and I'm feeling all of that. So, resetting, right? So, resetting in your marriage, what does that look like? Um, and just like with anything else, like I said in the earlier, it's like a reboot, right? Like, you get burnt out on things if you do too much and you don't check in with yourself, or with, and like I said, in this case, checking with your spouse. So, a couple of things, and how a reset would look in a marriage. It could be making sure that you're doing those intentional conversations. Like, for example, my husband and I were out on the front porch, and we were just talking, like at least 2 or 3 hours. We talked today, and just like, I had the day off, and we slept in, after obviously we had to get the kids to school, but and he did more of that than me. I was in the bed. I was being left alone as I asked him if that so which is what I wanted. So we slept in, had a nice time together, that bond was there. And then we woke up, made breakfast, and then sat on the porch and just talked and checked in. And it was nice, and it was sweet. And, we need more days like that. It's just like, when you just like, I feel like I'm falling in love with you all over again. Right. So I think having those intentional conversations keeps the connection strong between you and your spouse. Also, having date days or date nights, whatever it is. Like, this is one of the reasons why we did the date day last week. We had not checked in with each other for a while, and we definitely needed the day. And we spent that time, quality time together, and it was needed. And it's just kind of bled into this week, to where we've been really loving, we've been affectionate, we've been just kind of all over each other. So, and it's nice. It's been nice. And again, and your date days, just like caveat to it, your date days don't have to be anything extravagant. It literally could be you going for a walk. It could be going to your favorite restaurant, like what we did, going to a movie, sitting on the front porch, having coffee, whatever, talking it out. The other thing is to reset, I think, is also praying together, being intentional about your prayer life, reading your word, really, having those Bible lessons with each other, making it intentional because making sure that God is at the forefront. And really, this should have been first, honestly, like keeping your center around God in your relationship with God, because that is, and for us, that is our foundation. So we always want to make sure that we keep God first. Also, maybe sometimes another way to look at resetting could be creating new patterns, which I guess doing the Bible study or the prayer or fasting, whatever that regimen might look like for you, and for us, right? So maybe starting a new routine together, like starting, walking on a regular basis, or having your Bible study with each other, be on a regular, consistent basis. Those kinds of things to make sure that you're keeping some type of connection going with a pattern, and like making things a habit. Like with anything, you want to keep a habit or make a habit out of, and it just helps you keep the consistency in your marriage too. And what your, whatever your goals are for your marriage is helping you be consistent with that goal. And then I think too, the other important thing, I am the daughter of a mental health clinician, social worker by trade. He is, so my dad, and I definitely believe in therapy. I believe in counseling. I believe in spiritual counseling. I think it's a strong foundation to, if there's things that you may not be able to handle just between you and your spouse, it may be that you need a third party involved and a professional, right? A professionally trained mental health professional, that can help navigate those different areas or those really difficult areas in your marriage. So I think that's important as well. All right. So I'm going to share what I think the theme of this episode is, and then also a scripture that really is kind of where it's anchored, or my foundation. I think my husband and I foundation is kind of anchored in, to help us when we're feeling like emotionally drained. And especially, I know when I feel this way, like thinking of scriptures that will help refresh or reset my mind and my thinking and my spirit. So here it is in Romans 12:10. Be kindly affectioned one to another with brotherly love and honor, preferring one another. And I think the most important part there is that preferring one another part. So it's talking to me more about not just love as a feeling, but about honoring and respecting your spouse, and honoring and loving them enough, that agape kind of love, that you're meeting their needs and you're putting sometimes their needs before yours by checking in with them and making sure that they're good, right? It's being intentional about, like, you care about their feelings, you care about what they're going through, and you talk and check in and spend time with them to make sure that you're both good and you're both in a place where you're not, like, one isn't feeling more burdened than the other, like you're sharing the weight together, because you have become one when you get married. So I think that's important too. The other thing I liked, and this is a mini devotional that I looked up, and I wanted to read it because it did encourage me today, and hopefully it's encouraging to you all. But it said, life is loud, messy, and wonderfully chaotic. In the middle of all the errands, calls, and carpools, it's easy to lose sight of the one we're doing life with. But marriage isn't made of grand vacations or highlight reels. It's built in the quiet check ins, the side hugs in the kitchen, the late night prayers. When you take even 10 minutes to say, I'm still with you, you're planting seeds of intimacy that grow deep roots. God sees every whispered prayer, every held hand, every hard conversation. He honors the pause. And he blesses the two who keep choosing each other, even in the noise. So, really, the message here is, when life gets really loud, just honor, take a beat and pause and be intentional with your spouse. Be intentional with where you want to go in your growth in your marriage, right? It's taking that beat and really thinking about, okay, where are we right now? And are we meeting the goals that we set for ourselves for this year or for this month or for this week? Whatever it is, check in. Just check in with each other, because it's important, because life gets loud, and and after so many years of being married, you can get fatigued, you can get burnt out. It is human. It does not mean that your marriage is over. It does not mean that you're broken. It just means that maybe you need to reset, and maybe you need to make new goals for yourselves or for your marriage. Um, to kind of get you through whatever that patch may be of feeling fatigue. Right. So I hope this was encouraging to you all. It was definitely something that I've been thinking about and was encouraging to me. So if you're feeling marriage fatigue right now, um, just, again, just know that it doesn't mean that you're broken, and it doesn't mean that your marriage is doomed. It just means that you may need to reset, and you don't necessarily need to rewrite, right? You don't necessarily need to start all over, or think about extreme measures and leaving your spouse and all that kind of stuff. It just means that maybe you need to talk to God and reset and think about what your marriage needs, and what you need, what your marriage needs, and then talk with your spouse about it, right? Um, and then when you're talking with your spouse about it, make sure that you're talking with compassion and love. That agape love that I mentioned before is very important, right? That in spite of it all, I'm with you, I love you, and we're going to get through whatever this is that we're dealing with right now. So, all right, hopefully I said something that was encouraging. Let me know what you think about this topic. Leave a comment. Make sure to like, subscribe, and as always, stay tuned for more, because more is coming. Thank you. Have a good one.